Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good news. That's bad news.
Well, I mean, look what
Makes-
happened in
yeah.
Hillcrest also. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
What
You know, because they.
What happened?
With the teacher,
It
the
was a
Jewish teacher, with
Oh,
the run
yeah.
to be protected.
It was-
That one. Oh, yeah. Yes, that was like 2 weeks
She
ago.
went back to class.
We're talking about places where it's heavily used. This used to be
No,
heavily
Hillcrest
Jewish.
is Asian.
The Syracuse thing
Was a
pretty bad.
base.
Yeah, the Asians are not into this.
Some Bayside, there are loads of Afghanis in Bayside. Used to have an Afghani PA who was like viciously anti-Israel.
Right. Well, that's not good news. That's bad news.
Well, I mean, look what happened in Hillcrest also.
Whether
I mean, it's just.
Pakistanis, whether it's Indonesia. To be protected.
Oh, that's-
oh, yeah,
15 million.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Here we go. These are our sheets. Okay. So last time when we left off, we had a little confusion about that line about the person who was Eitzel Ishto, man who was Eitzel Ishto, if you recall. So we were at the top of, just to reread this, and I went to our Hashulchan to get a for because it was a close call for instant replay. It's a Siman Reish Samach Gimel. In my edition, it's a Lamed Zion on top of the page, top left-hand corner, and it's Siv Vav, and it's after turning the page, top of the page. So we had said, just to give a running start from last time, that if we have a bocher who goes to learn outside his house, then he needs to light a Shabbos candle in his room, and he should make a bracha on it. That's a very important fact here. So when I reread this very carefully, that was the part that becomes the source of the question: is does the person make a bracha? So when there's a bachur who goes to some yeshiva somewhere and he's staying somewhere, by a host, so he has his own room. It's like almost his room that is kavua. He's staying somewhere. It's a dorm. It's a family who's putting him up for the whole semester, the whole year. That's his place. He's not even. It wouldn't even call him necessarily an oreach. He's not a guest. He's not coming through for Shabbos. He's there with some permanence. Okay. Now, Aval, the Shulchan Aruch writes, Aval Misha Eitzel Ishto. Okay, on the second line on this page over here. So here,
Thank you.
Lamed Zayin, perfect, right here. So right here, Aval, who Eitzel Ishto, Misha Eitzel Ishto, Ein Tzarich Lahadlik Bechedro, Ulevarech Halav. He doesn't need, if he is Eitzel Ishto, meaning he is with his wife. Okay.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. So I'm going to read the Aruch HaShulchan in a second. He doesn't need to light in his room and make a bracha on it. So he has, for some reason, there's an arrangement between husband and wife here. And I don't think he's necessarily in the yeshiva now. He got a wife, but he has his own room for some reason. I don't know if it's his study or they sleep in separate rooms on some nights. I don't know. There's no reason from a Hilchos Nida perspective to sleep in a separate room. There may be for a different bed, but that doesn't need to be in a separate room. But let's say he has his own room in the house for whatever reason. Does he have a responsibility, like almost like the bachur does, when he goes to some other family and he has a room that's kavua, in which he has a responsibility to light the candles? Now does he have a responsibility in his own home where it's his space? It's his man cave, whatever you want to describe the room. So the answer is he doesn't need to make the bracha. Doesn't need to light and make the bracha. The wife makes the bracha in the home. Now let's look what the Aruch HaShulchan said. I'm going to read it to you. Aruch HaShulchan says, Ner Shabbos ki Ner Chanukah. Shehi mitzvah b'chova al kol echad lahadlika. So it's very interesting. Ner Shabbos, he compares here, which is not the comparison that anybody else made here, that we read. Now Mishnah Berurah doesn't make this comparison either. The Ner Shabbos is like Ner Chanukah, very fitting, coming up to Chanukah this week, which is like means there's a mitzvah and an obligation on each kol echad lahadlika, and everyone to light. what does everyone mean when it comes to Hanukkah lights? Our Chashukha says, "V'hainu shekol mishpacha chayeves behadlakas haner." Every family, the obligation is on the family to light. So
Is
just
that every member? Is that every member of the family or the family itself?
Simeon, when he says when it says kol echad lahadlika, it means essentially ner ishu beisa. That's what he's saying, which means the family unit. That there's an obligation on the mishpacha to light the candles. Not every individual member of the family. Minimally, yes. The minhag, the mahadrim in a mahadrin way, according to the Ashkenazim, which follows the Rambam, is that each member of the family lights. But that's the extra special level. As a minimal level, you have to light one per household.
Rambam didn't say this is one per house.
No, Tosfot says one per household. It's a funny switch where
I know, but that was when we were talking about the number of candles, right?
yeah.
Not the number of people who light.
So sorry, you're right. The number of candles in the house. A student once, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, when I was teaching Hilchot Chanukah in Ramaz, a student pointed out to me very astutely that there's one word in the Rambam there in Hilchot Chanukah. I think it's Halacha Aleph in I want to say the fourth chapter of that sefer of the Rambam, where it says that you're right. Only the head of household lights, but can mispar all the kids. So, like, if there are 10, he gives the example. Rambam says there are 10 kids in the family. On day number 1, he lights 10. Day number 2, he lights 20. But it's interesting. It's always the balabayas who lights it, and he gives the example. So you're right. There's only one person who lights, but he does seem to multiply by the night times the number of people. Tosfot says mahadrin and a mahadrin means I give off information to the world about what night it is. So you walk by my window, you only see one Chanukiah. And the Bear Heitev says here, wow, Eza Pella, he says that the Sfaradim follow Tosfot and the Ashkenazim follow the Rambam. He says one of the only places where you'll see essentially a flip of who the Ashkenazim, seem to follow. And he writes it explicitly. Says this is like I don't know other place in Halacha where the Ashkenazim explicitly follow the Rambam and the Saradim explicitly follow Tosfot, which doesn't make any sense historically speaking. Okay,
Rav,
Yes.
when we learn the halacha of Hadlakas Neiros Chanukah, we have the concept Ishu Veso, and if the Baal Bayis is traveling, then
wife can light it at home.
his wife can light in the house, and he's off the hook.
Good. So there's going to be. So I'm going to add one knach to that piece. So it's like Ner Chanukah, but there'll be one difference here. The one difference, and we're going to get to in just a second. You'll see the Aruch HaShulchan is going to bring it up. So let me keep reading here. If a man is in his house for Shabbos, and the wife, as per usual, lights and makes the bracha, he has a man cave. He has a cheder miyuchad, or he sleeps. I don't know. Again, I'm not in their marriage. I don't know why. He's got his own cheder. Ein tzarich lahadlik bebracha. He doesn't need to make a bracha when he lights. But the implication is he lights in his own room. He has to take sure any place that you plan on spending Friday night as a family. There's a responsibility for somebody in that household to make sure that there are lights there before Shabbos starts. It's a mitzvah. The bracha we talked about, that's near the food, near the dining room table, and there's a special, obligation for the wife to take the lead role on that. Obviously, if the wife is not there, he's single, whatever the case is, she can't light for whatever reason, then he needs to take that responsibility and he can make the bracha.
So Shalom Bayit applies even if you're single.
Yes. No one wants to.
Single.
Even if you're not married and you're
I
Yeah,
see what
you
you're
don't
saying.
want to bump into this and trip over that. Yeah.
Right.
And Shalom Bayit applies even if you're sleeping in separate chambers.
And you're sleeping in separate chambers. That's correct.
Then it's too late.
Right. Because why the wife makes a bracha Allah upon him, meaning for all the lights that will go on in the house, she makes the bracha. And on her bracha, she is inclusive of all the lights in all of the rooms in terms of the bracha.
Perfectly.
And he should light those so that no one trips when he's walking in his own room. She never goes in there. That's his space. But he needs to make sure there's lights there. She made the bracha though for the household. What if he's on traveling? He's a guest in someone else's house. Then he does need to go ahead. He has his own special room. He's going to needs to make needs to light and ulevarich and make a bracha. She'ein habracha beveso. Okay, listen very carefully here. A bracha that it's in his house. He's traveling. Wife's at home. She'ein habracha beveso. Poteres haner shebamakom acher legamri. If he's somewhere else, he's not home for Shabbos. He's with his wife. Is back home.
That says traveling as opposed to being in, let's say, in yeshiva,
Right.
where he has his own makom. Right?
Correct.
Okay, is he going to address that too?
Yes, he's going to get to that, I believe, in just a moment.
Oh, great.
So he says here again that even though the wife lit at home, someone in his house lit at home, he's in a different place. He has a cheder meyuchad, and he needs to light there and make a bracha. Ve'im ein lo cheder meyuchad. If he doesn't have a unique room there, special room in this guest situation, ein sarich lo lahadlik v'lo levarich. Right, he's sleeping on the couch in the living room. So the living room is everybody's space, right? So then he's a guest. He has no obligation to light or to make a bracha at all. The mitzvah hadlakas ner Shabbos kayam beveso al yedei ishto, because and since he doesn't have his own space that he needs to ensure is lit, he doesn't have to worry. And it's almost like Ner Chanukah now, where the way he describes it. I'm just describing here. This is the mitzvah of Ner Shabbos was fulfilled in his household through his wife. Meaning, when you have a space to take care of, you must take care of it in your place that's outside of your house, and you even need to make a bracha. If it's in your house, that you're a cheder meyuchad, so the bracha is the wife's, and you have to light it. So you're in your room though. Now, v'im ein lo isha. This is the case. He doesn't have a wife. He's not married, but hu b'achsayin, and he's a guest. Kamo. Now here it's interesting, BJ, because he says, look at this way he says. He says, Kamo bachurim ha'olchim lilmod chutz lebeisam. So he does now. How do I put this? He does seem to mesh the two, where you're a guest who has a guest room, and you're also the yeshiva bacher who's not just in a guest room, like you're not for like a weekend or whatever. Like, the bacher's there for months, probably at a time. Oh, she'ishto mesa, or because his wife has passed away. So he's either a bachor or his wife has passed away, and he's traveling, or okay. So tzrichim lehadlik ner shel Shabbos bechedram. So like quoting almost like from the Shulchan Aruch, you light in your room ulevarich alav, and there's no question that you make a bracha. Va'afilu yesh lo b'makom acher, and you have you are connected to another family, even though he's single or his wife passed away and he's by himself now. And he says, even if you have a makom acher, let's makom acher, av ve'em hamadlik, and a father, mother, they're lighting in their house. He goes, oh, my mom's lighting, right? The yeshiva bachrim, whose moms are lighting. Kaven shu gadol. But once you're not a minor anymore, you're a gadol. Shu kabbalah bayis v'fnei atzmo. You already are responsible. You're 18 years old. You live most of your life outside your parents' home. V'chala alav mitzvahs ner shel Shabbos. The mitzvah of ner Shabbos falls on you too now. It's different than when you're actually staying at your parents' house, and then you're part of the mishpacha. Remember, the responsibility is on the mishpacha. But if you're a guest in your own parents' home because you come home for yeshiva break, you come home once in a while, sorry, you're like a balabayas. You're on your own. If you live in your parents' house, that's one thing. You're 18, 19, 20, 21, or you're older and you're living in your parents' home. You're part of the mishpacha. But even though you come home on occasion, you don't live most of your life now in your home, in your parents' home. It's a hard pill to swallow, but you're a little bit like a guest in terms of halacha here. And he says,
but Rav, what happens if he's a legitimate oreach? If I came up north and I spent Shabbos at your house as a guest, couldn't I be yotze when your wife lit?
So.
On the couch.
If you sleep on the couch, Sid. So if you have your own room, let's say it. So based on what it sounds like here, I'm not going to talk about what sort of Minchag Yisrael right now, but based on what we're learning right now,
This is not practice today.
So,
the kids in the yeshiva don't light their own candles.
so it's interesting.
Is that right? I'm going to ask. I don't know.
I did.
So I looked.
Yeah.
That's not today.
I looked what I looked at. I looked up what they do at YU, and Rav Herschel Schechter's psak halacha is that the boys should light in their dorm room, and he says make a bracha. That's what I looked up.
Yeah. That's consistent with.
And
what
not
you read,
in the
right?
Cheder Ochel, by the way, not in the Cheder Ochel, not in the cafeteria, right? He says,
Fire insurance company.
Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. That I can't talk about.
That-
So the best thing, to Simeon's question. Well, you're a guest. This happens all the time. You're a guest in someone's house. You could even with your wife, by the way. It sounds like almost like wait, your wife and your wife lights in the guest room. So, I think here you have to also remember that in a situation where the Bachor, for example, which I think even the Mishnah Berurah had said. Take a look at Mishnah. Oh yeah, take a look at Mishnah Berurah Lamed Aleph. Let's make this point here. We'll use his words to help us. Lamed Aleph and Simeon. I'm going to answer your question in this vein.
Okay.
Lamed Aleph says, "Ein sarach." Now this is going on. You don't need to light if you have a wife. You don't need to light in your room and make the bracha. He says here, but to clarify, by the way, aval lehadlik sarich. Lighting, yes. Bracha, no. Even if you're not going to eat in that room, you still make a bracha. You still light, but no bracha. Kadei shelo yikashal ve'etzel be'evan, so you don't trip on wood or stones. Now, if you have your own room and you're not going to be eating by the family, meaning you're not benefiting from the lights of the common room or the dining room. So then I think there is a very strong case to make that you should light and make a bracha in the room where you're going to personally benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't do that at all.
Correct.
In our own homes, right? We don't light in our bedrooms anymore.
So what do we do though? What do we do, BJ? In our own bedroom?
Oh, well, you have a light.
A lamp, a
Light.
timer, even if it's on a timer or something. And that is part of the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos, of preparing the room. They didn't have the electric lights we have today, so everything was fire, was a nair.
So why isn't it the same thing when you're a guest and you're going to be eating with the family that's hosting you? Just as a guest, we're not talking about having your own set place, right?
Right.
So I'm going to stay
you're
at
coming
your
home.
house. Yeah, and I'm not coming home that night.
So you're sleeping there.
I'm gonna spend Friday night there, but your wife's gonna light, right?
It's not even
100%.
why aren't you obligated then to make kiddush in the room so you're looking at the light?
Yeah, so that's why I say that's why I'm saying if you're not eating there, if you're eating with the family,
Right.
then
That's
near
not
left
typically what he said.
daiti. Was that no? But he's not. But if you take it very very carefully here, where was this said?
And look, it's a different era.
I don't know here that they're actually. Where's the Aruch HaShulchan? I think he thought he clarified this actually. But I don't know that this is in a case where you're eating there. Okay. When we get to Sifkat Amses, I think it will be more clear.
Okay.
So when you're eating together with other families, and let's say you're going on a vacation, like the Yemen's family before your mother-in-law passed away, right? You guys all went again together, you and your family, your kids, and you rented right. So what happens when multiple families get together? So he's going to talk about that in Sif Ches, and I think we can relate the question of just simply going and sleeping over by somebody for Shabbos. That look, the Minhag Yisrael, and I'm not here to change Minhag Yisrael, is the wife of that guest family will light, but if there's no wife, I think that what typically happens is that you depend on the Balabayas or the Balas Habayis to light the candles, and then you're good. So let's take a look here. Let's go further. Now, Sif Zayin Shulchan Aruch Oreach she'ein lo cheder miyuchad v'gam ein madlikin alav beveso. So he's sleeping on the couch, right? Cheder miyuchad, he's sleeping on the couch. And he doesn't have a wife back home or anything like that. So he has his own mitzvah of Nero Shabbos. Okay, so there are two tracks here that you see. There's making sure that your room has light wherever you are, and then there's this but you need to make sure that there are Nero Shabbos somewhere that's lit on your behalf. When you have a family back home, so that second track is taken care of. But if your own personal room where you're a guest is not lit, then you have to light. But let's say he doesn't have his own personal room and he doesn't have a mishpacha back home. So now, what does he have to do? Sarech lihishtatef bepruta. He needs to go over to the balabayis. He needs to go, here's a nickel. A pruta is approximately 3-4 cents. It's a minimal value of silver.
An eighth of a
You know,
talkie,
an eighth of-
talkie.
There you go, an eighth of a talkie. Today, that's what 3-4 cents. That's the joke under the chuppah. You ask the witnesses, you show them the ring, and you go, "Worth a shava pruta?" And you look, you go, "You're going to show me from a Cracker Jacks box, a ring, and it's a shava pruta." Yes, it's a shava pruta. Pruta is so cheap. And so you go and you give a nickel. You give a nickel to the balai. Say, "I want to buy, a chelik of the oil that you're going to be lighting for Shabbos candles," and you're done. Take a look. But that's how you have to fulfill your mitzvah, by being mishtatef bepruta. Take a look at Mishnah Berurah Lamed Beis Lamed Gimel. She'ein lo cheder meyuchad. Now, what's the implication? Says the Mishnah Berurah. Ha im haya lo cheder meyuchad. You're a guest and you have your own room. Sarich lahadlik ulevarich. You need to light and make a bracha. Ulafilu imadlikin alav aveso. Again, even if someone is lighting back home, if you have your own space over Shabbos, that's yours. No one's walking in there. Like you said in Sivav, you have an obligation to make sure your space is lit, and apparently even with a bracha.
That doesn't make sense.
Simeon just muttered. I picked it up on the mic. Simeon muttered, that doesn't make any sense.
So
Well,
it
yeah.
has to be a monetary thing. It can't be that they get you the post says I have you in mind.
Oh, so hold on. So he says here. So where is this? Oh, look at Lamed Gimel. Exactly. Lamed Gimel, the Mishnah Berurah, Liishtatef, Ubereishim and Tafresh Ayin Zayin, which is about Hilchos Chanukah, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, via Magid of Rabbi Shem Chuvas Rashal. So the Marshal says the following: the Gam Bachurim, Srichem Liishtatef. Even the Bachurim need to be mishtatef pruta. Give a little to their whoever's hosting them. Umasik sham, and the conclusion over there is the efshar the hayu davka kisheochel bifnei atzmo. This is very important to Mishnah Berurah. That's only if they're eating by themselves. Aval im samuch al shulchan balabayis. If they are going to be eating at the shulchan of the balabayis, arehu bichlal b'nei beso. So you're a bachur staying there, and you're going to eat with them. You're a bit biased.
It's got a different status.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore, there is no separate obligation to light. Now, that is a very fascinating, and I said, Ayin Sham, take a look over there, but that is a very fascinating conclusion, because what that implies is that when you stay by other people and you're eating with them, it would imply that you actually never need to light. Because you're a part of what. Now take a look. So it's number 43, Tommy over here. So I have these extra comments in my Dirshu edition of the Mishnah Berurah. So we get some more modern poskim now. He writes here, I'm just reading the whole comment. I want you to have the whole context. Doesn't seem to say, are you there bekvius? Are you there for 3-4 months, or just for Shabbos? Look, when it comes to being a guest on Chanukah and Chanukah candles, it writes in Hilchos Chanukah, Tafresh Ayin Zayin, Shemi she'eino samuch al shulchan balabayis bekvius. There, it explicitly says if you don't rely on the balabayis with some sort of permanence, you're staying there for a month, you're you're there for more than just a night, That's why you need to the Gemara even talks about, give the balabayis a nickel. That's when you need that. Even if for that night you're going to be eating with them, you still have to give the pruta. Someone who is truly staying by the other person for a more fixed amount of time. He doesn't give you how many days or how many weeks, but you can figure that piece out. You're part of the balabayis obligations. The Hosif and the Rebbe Yashiv adds, our case, you're a guest for Shabbos. Paskins Rebbe Yashiv. Balabais, the Ein Lo Isha Shemadlika Laves, and the wife's not lighting back at home. So you have to give a balabayis a pruta. So if you're a single boy staying by somewhere and you're just a guest for Shabbos, not the kaviyus, Just you're over. Like the boys, the boys and girls, honestly, who go to they go to some yeshiva or seminary, and they get invited out for Shabbos too, whatever, and they have their own space, but then of course they're going to eat there. So Rav Yashiv thinks the kids should go and give a shekel, to the Ala Balabais. Is that what happens? I'm not sure, but that's telling you what he says. Me'idach, but now this probably is the most important psak halacha we're going to read now. The Minchas Yitzchak Paskins, v'chein das Agaon Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, that she'oreach nechshav kesamuch al shulchan balabayis. You're always considered, according to Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, you're always considered when you're staying there overnight, you're sleeping there, and you're eating with them. You are part of the family. You're ben bias. You don't even have to do a pruta. Now, with that, psak halacha of Shlomo Zalman would, words weren't here, but would lend itself to say that anytime you stay with somebody else in general, overnight, that if you are a ben bias, it would actually make a tremendous amount of sense that you have no obligation, no responsibility to light at all. Now, there are two tracks here. One is that I need to make sure that there are lights. So, okay, in your own room, you have to turn the light on, but you don't have to make a bracha on that. Now, what about this family stays with that family, and of course, the wife is going to light, or the guest family, the wife and the guest family is going to light also. That always happens. That's because there's a second track. It's always like, in your family orbit, someone has to light Shabbos candles. If you don't have a family orbit, because you're already a grown adult and you're single, you have to light it yourself. But that's why I believe that the wife and the guest family is going to light. And we're going to see now this idea with a slightly different case in Sifches. Sifches writes the following. Shulchan Aruch says, Shnayim o shlosha balabatim. You have 2 or 3 balabatim. By the way, actually, sorry, I want to read you one thing that Aruch HaShulchan wrote about the Sif Zayin. He says, "V'im ein la'ish kazeh cheder meyuchad." So you don't have a unique room. This is like Sif Zayin here. Tarach li'ishtatei v'fritei, gives them a pruta. Im balabayis she'omed sham v'yotzei dechovaso. And he writes here, by the way, "V'timhani shelo nohagu kein." So I don't know why no one does this. So he's acknowledging. So the beauty of the Aruch HaShulchan is that he understands. He was a shul rabbi, he was a community rabbi, and a big Talmud Chacham. So he understood what people did and didn't do, and he understood that. To your point, BJ, from earlier, maybe you said this. Like, nobody does this, like this, and he's acknowledging this is not something that people do. So I think that Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's psak, whether people know that they're really following it or not, seems to be what has won the day. And that is that if you're a guest in the house, you're a balabai. You're a ben bias.
Or like in the days of the Talmud, where they came down with psak because that's what everybody did.
Right.
Specifically like with olive oil, right? An olive oil urn, because you use the urn again, right? Does it have to have a hexture on it, right? And when nobody,
once people are doing it, it's hard to pull. And the Aruch HaShulchan is usually a huge defender of minhag. He'll try to really defend whatever minhag Yisrael is. Mishnah Berurah is not as concerned with doing that. So he doesn't take people to task here. He just says the team honey. It's a wonder that no one follows this minhag. Okay, he doesn't take them to task. Now, Sifches, Shnayim o Shlosha Balibatim, Ochlim b'makom echad. So this is the case that your family had less. 2 or 3, families get together and they are in one place, and they're eating together, right? They're having they're all together. Yesh omrim shekol echad mevarach al menorah shelo. Everyone should light their own candelabra. Yesh megamgen badavar. Some are not so sure that should be the case. You really everyone has to light their own. B'nochon li zahir, so the Shulchan Aruch psak, which is going to be here, we're going to find a difference between the psak halacha for Saradim and Ashkenazim. Okay, the Mechaber says here it is correct to be cautious li zahir, the sfeik brachos when it comes to a doubt when there's a bracha involved here. V'lo yivarech ela echad, so only one of the family should light. Only one of the family should
bless.
Should make a bracha. Excuse me. Thank you, BJ. Everyone should light. We're going to see that everyone should light, but only one should make the bracha. So you have 3 families, 2, 3 families get together. One should make the bracha. The others should just be like, whatever. I'm lighting, and perhaps they should listen to the other one's bracha and say amen. We'll get to that in a second. But Ashkenazim, and this really aligns with the, when let's say when I go to my when we visited my mom last week, or when we go to visit my in-laws for Shabbos and we stayed there, Lisa lights the candles, as well. And in addition to my mom, or in addition to my mother-in-law, Aval Anu ain't no again came. The Ramah here says, that's not our practice. Meaning, and the Mechaber, the Mishnah Berurah and Aruch HaShulchan both agree on this. But what he means by ain't no again came, as we'll see in a second. Actually, you know what? I'll jump ahead. Fine, I can't tell myself. Go to Lamed Zayin. We'll go back to Lamed Hey, Lamed Vav in a second. Go to Lamed Zayin. Ein Noagin Kain v'chulei. The Mishnah Berurah says, this is Lamed Zayin, the bottom line here of the right-hand column. Ela kadea harishona. We follow the first opinion, which is that everybody lights their own menorah, and implication is makes a bracha. Because of a Magen Avram b'shem Ashla, the B'kol Makom. Now the Magen Avram tries to limit it here. Hold on. So it's unclear. Sorry, let's back up. It's unclear.
I'm sorry, I didn't take that as the first opinion. Elakadat Harishona, which was, I thought the first opinion was everybody likes
their own menorah
and one blesses.
No,
I
it
think
says that
everybody
each,
was-
it
I
says
think
each
everybody was
recites the
saying-
bracha.
So let's reread that first case. So they're eating in one place, two or three families, right? Yesh omrim shekol echad mevarich al menorah shalom.
Yesh Omrim.
Yeah. Yes, correct. And that says one. So one opinion is that each one makes a bracha. V'yesh megamgem b'davar, and there's others like I'm not comfortable with it. Everyone should light, but I'm not comfortable with it. Everyone makes a bracha, and that's why the Mechaber says, you know what? Best nochon li zoher, because there's a suffix bracha. Suffix bracha, usually say suffix bracha lahakel. We're lenient, and he says v'lo yivarach el echad. So
the
first
only
opinion is
difference-
everybody makes a bracha.
Right.
Second opinion is everybody lights, but only one makes a bracha.
Right.
Okay, so he says here
And then the Ramah comes along and says,
that, on the second point of the on the psak of the Mechaber, who says let's be careful to only have one light. He says aval ein anu noagin came. That's not our practice.
so it's a multiple bracha.
Yeah, so he's by process of elimination. He's reverting back to the first opinion, which is that everyone makes a bracha,
Okay, got it.
right? Ela kadea harishona. This is referring back to the first approach, which is everybody makes a bracha. The custom of Magen Avram b'shem Ashla. Now, the Magen Avram quotes in the name of the Shla. Okay, it was a bit of a mekubal. The mikol makom lo yivarchu shnayim b'menorah achas. Two people shouldn't make a bracha though on one menorah. Everyone should light their own. Sheyesh lakanim harba. Why? Because I'm lighting my own. There are different branches on a menorah, so I'm lighting these two on this side, and you light those two on that side. The Shla says that's a little too much to make a bracha now on the other side of the candelabra. But even that, then there are those v'yesh mekilin gam bazeh. There are those who are lenient even in that case. The Eliyah Rabbah is lenient. Because of a prima godim, so the prima godim tries to find a middle ground here. The yesh lismoch al zeh benoshim aniyos. If there are women who are poor, she'ein lahem ki menorah achas. Their two families get together. Echas. They get together. They're lucky they have any candelabras to light on. So they have one, and they say, you take these two on this side, and I'll take these two on this side. So, yeshami lismoch. You'll light on this half, you'll make a bracha. You light on this half, make a bracha. Now, why would I think that maybe there's an issue in the first place here with lighting?
Question I have is, are you making a bracha on the candelabra, or you're making a bracha on the lighting?
It's a lighting.
You're making a bracha on the lights.
Lighting, so
So you should. Why should it matter? Right? Why should it matter if it's this half and that half?
Right.
So where did I see this? Was this? Was it here?
There's an argument even if you're.
Here he says "Vatam menorah achas ma'at or nitosaf." There's the amount of added light from the candelabra, because it's so close together. The amount of added light to the situation in this room is not a tremendous amount, and so therefore it's not as good a situation, because the idea of having multiple people light, as we'll see in a moment here, and that it's okay to add, say, a bracha even, is because, well, it's adding more light, and therefore is adding more shalom bias. There's less likelihood of tripping and falling and whatnot. I mean, look, if you light one candle and then you light a second candle, and there are no other lights in the room, there is a significant increase in the amount of light there. And then you add number 3 and number 4. Today, this is lost on us because you have a light above you, and like, what is an extra candle? Means nothing. Means nothing.
Who says that, Rav? Who holds that? That's not the Shlah.
The Shlomo was the one who said, I don't like sharing candelabras and making a bracha.
But the Shlosh seems to say, like you could ask the question, why bother lighting other menorahs in a case where you're not going to make additional brachot? And the Shlosh is saying the benefit is the extra light.
Right. Correct. It is. And that but when you're lighting on one candelabra, the suffix is that maybe the second person who lights on the candelabra is not truly adding anything of great significance because it's really the same area that's getting the light in the room, as opposed to even putting it 5 feet away, and now you're giving more light to another part of the room. Look, the whole thing is once again, lost on us. It's totally lost on us because all of us have artificial lighting on, even in the room that we light Shabbos candles. And so today, Shabbos candles only become about one thing and one thing only, and that's the beauty of the light. That it looks nice because it's not actually what provides us light today. But in the days of Chazal, and not even that long ago, Shabbos candles were the lights for the dining room table. And the more lights for the dining room table, then the more you can see.
You had the light in the cheder as well.
And you're correct. So that's why it's a little bit lost on us today. But the minhag is still, I acknowledge this. I don't know what the Saradim, I don't know. But Ashkenazim,
my wife does. She does everybody blesses.
Everybody makes it. That's right. In Ashkenazi households.
Yeah, they do the same.
Right. In Ashkenazi, and so maybe that's a deviation here from what the Nachon Li Zahir, which by the way, it's not a right. Right. I guess that plays a factor here. So let's take a look at Lamed Ches, and then we'll go back for a second. So Cain here, he's going off the words Ein Noag in Cain. He says here, now, he says, what about if these families sharing this space? One of them has their own room. You don't eat in the room, you're eating at the dining room table. And you're not even eating snacks there. There's no eating related to your room. Now, notice the language here. What's the word yachol mean? You can. You can if you would like. You want to be machmir and make sure that you have your, that way you're truly adding light to it, your own space. You can make a bracha in the room where you're sleeping, but that's a can. That is not a tzarich. So you also can just light in the dining room area where everyone else is also lighting.
He takes you off the hook for bracha levatala.
If you go light over there, you're correct. You're like, for sure there's no bracha levatala if you light in your own room. That's I think what he's trying to say. Now let's go back to Lamed Hey and Lamed Vav now. Shekol echad mevarach. This is really that for opinion of that each one makes a bracha. Now I'm sure I'm gonna get some eye rolls and some scoffs here. That's not me. I'm the shaliach. Don't blame the shaliach. Because you might not like, I know Simeon's gonna get a little upset about this. I kind of already previewed it though, so I laid the groundwork. Anything that where you add more light. Yesh ba shalom bayis. There is then within it shalom bayis. The simcha yiser. So there's more shalom bayis, and there's more simcha. More lights equals more simcha, more shalom bayis. Again, this doesn't make sense in our context today. I acknowledge. But lahanas ora b'chol zavis is obvious. That way, there's more lights in each corner of the. Again, they didn't have such. Also, the homes weren't as Baruch Hashem as. I think as big as our homes are today, they had, probably one big common room, and then maybe there was another room. The description of the homes in the Talmud. Sorry to deviate us. They all slept in the same room. And that's why there are halachos about again, you have to put up a machitza between this couple and then the rest of. We have so many rooms in our houses relative to what the Gemara describes homes look like in their time. I'm not saying that there weren't always castles and big places in their days, but the average balabas didn't live like the average balabas today. So you have to remember also that if you add more lights into this one common room, you're really giving light to the majority of the house. Okay. V'yesh megam game, the second opinion, which the Shulchan Aruch himself seems to have been, leaning towards. Ta'amam de belav hache yesham ora meruba meineros shedlikan rishon. Look, the second opinion is like, How can you make a bracha? The second person make a bracha? The first person already gave enough light to this room that you can see minimally. So that, can you really make a bracha on the additional light that doesn't really add? The minhag Yisrael amongst Ashkenazim, and maybe BJ will tell you, the Sfaradim too. Certainly Ashkenazim, this is what we do in our family. Each family lights, and I'm sure that's what happened when you went to the vacation, right? Everybody, your wife lit, your daughters-in-law probably lit. That's once you're your own family, you're what was his expression?
Nuclear unit.
Right, you're your own. What do you call it? You're your own balabayas. Then your own family has this obligation. There's two tracks, right? Each family has an obligation to light Shabbos candles. Then there's a separate point there that if you are in your own room somewhere and you're not really a ben bias. See, if you follow Rosh Hashanah and Auerbach, that second track is very limited, because then anytime you're a guest in someone else's home, even though let's say you have a wife back at home, you never need to light in your cheder miyuchad. You should put a light on because you need a light on, but you don't need to take a bracha because you're a ben bias of the family you're staying by. So, just keep that always in mind. And I think that is the minhag Yisrael. I don't think people, go to someone else's home and then light in their room and then they're going to eat with them. That's never happened. Maybe you light if it's like, say, the wife was the guest somewhere else. Maybe she lights, but if that's the case, if the wife is away for Shabbos and you're alone. Right, you should light and make a bracha in your own home. Not even a question.
I don't watch it that carefully when they do this. In fact, I seldom do. But we were just away, and so everybody was eating shul, right, and all of the meals, right. And we stayed in a separate. Actually, it was a little house that was entirely for us. And the guy there had had one of these
the Shabbos lamps. Yeah.
So that we lit to make sure we had room. We didn't say a bracha there, but the women all made in the shul,
right?
And it was a bat mitzvah also, and so I'm almost pretty sure, and I'm guessing my home as well. They're all saying it together, unison.
The bracha.
They're also lighting it. Everybody's doing. They do it together, and then they all make the bracha in unison.
Right.
So it's at one time. They're all doing it, but I'm almost certain that's what happens, and I would bet you that happens in every Ashkenaz home as well.
No.
5 minutes later, this one's saying
This one's
that's what happens. That's what happens.
Kids
That's
are
what happens
running
with
over
my when we go to my in-laws.
Everyone
does their own.
Everybody's ready at a different time.
Right.
That might, by the way, so BJ, that may be relate. I don't know.
Yeah,
that could be related to this.
He actually summons all that. We're lighting now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Alibi, we're all ready at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Meaning, come on, you want to be here when we light. Just.
We do assume that an unmarried girl.
Excuse me, Rav. Minhag Yisrael is that we all make an independent bracha when we all light our individual menorahs.
Well, say it again, Simeon. Say it again.
The Minhag Yisrael, as I understand it, is every family member lights their own menorah, men and women, and each one recites the bracha.
This is for Hanukkah. Yes, that's again Ashkenazim. Sfaradim don't do that. Sfaradim have one Chanukiah per household. So Ashkenazim, yes, though.
Okay.
So did you hear Bruce's question?
Yeah, about a single. So Bruce asked the question, so just for your benefit. So, what about a single girl? What's her obligation? What in general, seminary. Right? Yeah. So she goes to seminary. So again, I would say, like what Rav Shechter tells all the boys at YU to do, and I'll do all the boys do that. I'm not sure, by the way, but his psak halacha is at the very least that you should light in your room, even though they're all going to eat together in the cheder ochel. There's and he says better to light in the room than in the cheder ochel, because it's unclear. Do you really have violence over the cheder ochel? I mean, you're allowed to go there, but no one really. That's like the yeshiva's responsibility to take care of that room, and it's unclear then whose responsibility is to light in that space. Obviously, they have to make sure there's light there, but each boy or girl who is in a room, and they might have roommates, by the way, in which case, I think we've mentioned this in the past, only one needs to light from the room, and everyone else can just say Amen. You're good in that sense, but you need to make sure that in your space, especially because I would also add that there's a certain kavius to that space. You're there for the year. That's your dorm room. For 10 months, it's really like your home. There, I feel very comfortable saying that person should light, a boy or girl should light, one per room. So they don't have their own rooms, and they should make a bracha. I think that would make sense. But if you're a guest, it's very different. A guest who's there, even if you're staying for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I hear Shlomo Zalman Auerbach say, like, you're a ben bias at that point here, but there's not in a yeshiva. There's almost no balabayas. That's the thing, It's like everybody. It's like the case of Shnaim or Shlosha Balabatim who come together and they're staying in the same room. But there, I don't think that they're quite an entity unto themselves that they have to light, each one. I don't know. That would be my gut instinct that each one doesn't need to light. I just think one would probably be sufficient, and perhaps they should all say Amen to each other. The ones who make bracha.
You just totally don't deal with. This
So
one.
how do you do?
And I guess it also wasn't the comment. The notion of going to
All right,
seminary,
that's
right?
Beis Yaakov didn't open until the 1900s.
So
correct.
if you're a 30-year-old who's working single, who's working a responsible job somewhere,
Yeah.
and he comes home for Shabbos
Yes.
to his parents' house, is he supposed to light candles?
It's so interesting because if you add up everything that we've talked about, the
He
answer
does.
would be that there is some level of obligation. Though again, if you follow Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's psak, which is again that orech nechshav kisamuch al shulchan ba'al habayis ve'ein tzarich lihishtatei no pruta.
Okay.
But in theory, if you follow, let's say, the other opinion approach, he should probably, at the very least, give a pruta to the balabayas, be part of that lighting, and make sure there's a light in his own room, and then
Yeah, but if he's eating at the table with his parents,
right. It doesn't make
so
sense.
he's not going to light separate. And
No,
in his
I agree.
room, in his room, he's going to put on.
He
a
put on his
Shabbos
light, and with
right?
his
It's
mom,
not- he's not
with
gonna- right?
mom's bracha, hopefully, she has in mind to get all the lights, and he turns individually that light in his room. But he should have in mind that when he turns on the little night light or the Shabbos lamp or whatever, he should have in mind the Chabad Shabbos. And it's his,
making sure the right
right, and it's his responsibility. By the way, it's his responsibility to make sure the light in his room is on. That's everybody. It's a good lesson for kids. Your room is your responsibility to get ready for Shabbos. That's your mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos. Mom's going to light the candles, make the bracha, but your responsibility is to make sure that your room has the sufficient proper lighting that it needs, whether that's the Shabbos lamp or whatever.
That's just for Shabbos. But it seems to me that we have an opinion any which way and every which way. And I like to think about it in terms of Persume Denisa, when you're Marbe Or. I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think the custom that we've morphed to following these days, where everybody lights their own menorah, everybody makes the bracha. I think it's a wonderful concept in terms of Persume.
The Ashkenazim would agree with you, but as BJ just said, he said that's a wonderful concept, but you're wrong. The Sfaradim are very harif on this. Only one Chanukiah. Why? And the reason is because if you look in actually, I'm teaching this to my 8th graders this week. I'm very excited. If you open up Masechet Shabbos, it's I believe and you look there about when the Gemara describes Mahadrim and Mahadrim, Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai going up, going down in terms of the lights. The Tosfos there on the spot says that how is there Yoser Hidur? How is there increased beauty? It's by giving information to the passerby or to yourself what night of Hanukkah it is. And if you walk by a window with 40 candles, you have no idea what night of Hanukkah it is. Now, if you're a Jew and you're paying attention, you know. But it doesn't scream, tonight is night 5, and there happens to be 8 people in the house. But if you are walking by a home that only has 1, it's not just beautiful and the lights are nice, and you're adding for each night, and that's something nice about the counting, but it tells you exactly what night of the miracle are we recounting tonight, and that for Tosfos is the most beautiful. Not for the Rambam, more lights equals more beauty. I always tell our students, For Tosfos, more information equals more beauty. And again, here and I can pull it off the shelf here. The Ber Hetev says that here, ironic, but the Sfaradim follow Tosfot, and will follow him to a T. I don't know many Sfaradim who don't follow this approach of one Chanukah. Actually, I'll tell you one person.